I don't know if it's just me, but November has always had this overwhelming energy of transformation, this overwhelming call to release and shed and return the old back home to the soil. November is a month for deep feelers, for artists and poets, and turning the chaos and darkness into light and coherence through creation. It feels like we are all in this collective death cycle, ending old narratives that used to fuel us as individuals and as a whole. So, I've been spending this darker month shedding myself bare just like the branches, really uncovering what it truly means to be me, Emma, outside of the noise. I've been paying extra attention to the word home, as November feels like a big homecoming after the busyness of summer. A time to slow down and be with myself and reconnect to the roots beneath me. I find myself asking, what makes a home? In what places and energy do I dwell? What makes me feel safe and nourished? And I continually come back to the same word, creation. Creating, working with my hands, watering the seeds of inspiration gifted to me from Source. We are all connected through the cycles of the earth. The same water courses through our bodies, and the same sun gives us energy. The same moon guides us through the dark. Our bodies are made up of carbon from lives once lived, decomposed and transformed into something new. So, when I ask myself where it is I feel home, it is here, right where I am, creating alongside the earth, repeating to myself again and again, here I am, here I always was, here I forever will be. Good morning, everybody. I just woke up and had a slow morning. It definitely feels very good to move slowly during the colder, darker months, and I really appreciate having tools accessible to me to help me ground and root into my body. I feel like this season of my life has really been characterized by the word rooting, because I'm in a new place and I need to just settle in and reroot myself here and reacclimate myself to the new environment and the new weather and the new people and the new routine and just the new place, the new land. So I've been trying to spend more time off of my phone and just connecting internally. I have been starting my mornings reading The Retreat, which is this beautiful wellness newspaper that is filled with a bunch of content creators and women and just inspiring individuals that I love to follow on social media, but it's nice to be able to see a little bit deeper into who they are and just feel supported by their stories. I really love reading about other women and the paths that they have walked and watch as my relationship to my body and my relationship to my practices is mirrored within them, and each of us may be finding different takeaways from each practice, and also seeing different women's practices to how they connect to themselves to become inspired. So that's what I've been doing. There's so many different stories in here. It's really a newspaper that helps you disconnect in order to reconnect, which I love. This month's issue is called Dwelling, and my favorite story from this month's issue is from a poet from Germany, and she was just talking all about how she uses her body as a way to create poetry, which I definitely resonate with, but her story is so different than mine and yet so similar. So I just love reflecting and seeing myself mirrored in other women and just feeling less alone, which I definitely feel like social media sometimes can be a highlight reel. So seeing into other people's stories in depth definitely really helps make me feel less alone, which I love. So that's what I'm doing this morning. I'm just eating my breakfast and sitting here and reading. And there's also journal prompts, which I'll probably journal on one of the prompts. I feel like I'll definitely journal on this prompt. It's called Honey, I'm Home, and it's write about a time you felt truly at home, whether it was in a physical space or an emotional state. What contributed to that feeling, and how can you recreate it in your life now? I just feel like this will be definitely very useful now in the season of transitions, because we're in fall, and while fall feels like a homecoming and a returning, it also can feel like an upheaval and a death cycle. And now that I'm in a new space and just reinventing what life looks like right now, I definitely feel like I need this rooting, grounding energy. Reading The Retreat has been my favorite ritual recently. If you want to get your first month free of The Retreat, go to www.theretreatbycarly.com/newspaper and use my code EMMA100 in all caps. Thank you to The Retreat and Carly for sponsoring this week's video. As I close out this chapter of 22 and step into being 23, I am reflecting on all of the intentions that I want to embody moving forward. So, in celebration of 23, I sat outside in the rain and journaled down by the river about some of the promises for this next year of evolution. I promise to see pain and fear as doorways closer to my heart and walk through them every time. I promise to linger longer and to soak in every ounce of life offered in a single moment. I promise to stop trying to recreate what was and lean into what currently is. I promise to write more. I promise to always honor my heart, even and especially when it scares me. I promise to pay more attention. I promise to deepen my breath. I promise to allow fear to propel me forward until love comes in to guide the way. I promise to look up more often. I promise to never be the first to let go of a hug. I promise to listen, even when it's hard to hear. I promise to continue to feel everything, even when it's heavy. I promise to become more comfortable with being uncomfortable. I promise not to allow the thoughts of busyness to interrupt me in moments of self-reflection and creativity. I promise to always drop what I'm doing every time the sunset peeks its rays through the blinds. I promise not to run from the fissures of life. I promise to allow life to crack me wide open. And I promise to always look for the light because I know it's always there. On this evening, I spent some time inviting in space where I tend to hold tension. I stretched out my hips and my neck, I wiggled out my legs and played against gravity. I did some inversions to get the blood flowing to the brain. The entire time I rehearsed the word soften, soften, whenever I met up against a rough edge. Soften into the feelings of inadequacy, soften into the narratives of productivity, soften into the judgments I hold towards my body, soften, soften, soften. And then I went to the kitchen and cut up some fresh ginger to make a warming cup of tea. I find ginger to be so invigorating for the darker months, keeping everything moving and alleviating any stagnancy. I call it the spice of life, igniting my inner fire when things get cold. I added lots of cinnamon for extra blood circulating benefits as well as rose to help open my heart. A squeeze of lemon for some extra love for my body's detoxification pathways, and then I sat and prayed over the mixture. I find that intention is more than half the medicine sometimes when it comes to herbal medicine, and so I prayed to allow these moments of pause to bring me healing for my mind and my body. I prayed for creativity. I prayed for all the beings that went into delivering this cup of magic to my hands and to my body. I prayed for the renewal of the world. I prayed for peace, and this is always how my creative practice begins, in prayer. Okay, I'm cozying up with a warm cup of tea and having a nice night in while I create and pour myself into my creative practices, because I have slowly realized that this is the tether to myself. I have always been a deep feeler, and I am curious if any of the other deep feelers out there also have a creative practice that really tethers them to the earth and keeps them afloat, because I definitely feel like I lose myself when I don't pour myself into my creative practices. So anyways, I'm going to be spending the evening just reading and writing and becoming inspired and transmuting as much as I can from my head and my heart onto the pages and into art, because I know that is what life is about. It's about the deep feelings. It's about the ability to create from the vulnerable spaces, to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and to take that discomfort and that pain and that fear and to create art from it, and also to take the love and the compassion and the joy and to create art from it, and to take these deep feelings and allow them to be our roadmaps for how we move through life, because they give life meaning. And when I was younger, I was told by my mom that I always wore my emotions on my face and that I was easy to read like a book and everyone could always know what I was feeling. And I thought that that was a bad thing for a very long time. And so it led to me pushing my emotions down and holding them inside and trapping them. And that led to a lot of physical pain and a lot of emotional pain and a lot of just stagnancy and feeling like I was going to burst at any single moment. And it was really easy for me to cry and get angry and explode when a pin dropped, right? Because I had all of these emotions bottled up, because I was taught that if I were to express them, then I might be a burden to other people and I might make other people feel uncomfortable, because my extreme joy or my extreme sadness or my extreme disgust or dislike or anger would make them uncomfortable. And so that was what I was taught as a young age, and I definitely feel like that was not what was meant to be taught to me, but it was something that was taught to them. And as I grow up, I have learned that a lot of my physical and emotional illnesses have been a result of that suppressed emotion. And so as young as being in 6th and 7th grade, I leaned on creative practices as a way to get my voice out and a way to get these emotions out. And I would pour myself onto my journal pages in the forms of poetry. And I started writing poems very, very young, and they were so emotional and so intense and so alchemized from these feelings to the point that they were found by family members and were a strong reason why I ended up getting help for my eating disorder. They were very concerned at what was on these pages and what emotions were being channeled, and I just think that that shows how powerful art can be, to take the chaos and the jumble that is in your mind and transmute it and alchemize it and create something powerful and passionate from it. And yeah, I feel like my commitment to myself as I approach turning 23, which is crazy to think about, is to never run from these deep feelings again and to create art from them whenever they surface, in my notes app or in my journal or on the back of a receipt or on a napkin in my car. Whatever that is, I'm going to take these emotions and these deep feelings and I'm going to acknowledge them, simply put. And my favorite way to acknowledge them is through art. So I am going to sit here tonight and acknowledge those feelings. And every single birthday, as I approach a birthday, I love to reflect on the past year and just read through my journal and think about all of the places that I've gone and all of the journeys that I've been on and all of the relationships that I have accumulated along the way. And release, because my birthday always falls in the fall, obviously. It's a Scorpio birthday, so it naturally invites in this feeling of homecoming and rebirth and decomposing and releasing and shedding and death cycles. And so that is what I'm going to be writing on tonight, and that is what I'm going to be focusing on. And yeah, I'm going to read some other artists like Mary Oliver and Rumi and just become inspired by them, and also scroll some Pinterest and create my art and share my heart. So anyways, I also thought it would be really fun to share one of my poems that I wrote recently that I've loved and also just connected very deeply with, and have definitely found it to be a roadmap for what I've been experiencing in this season of my life. So if you feel called to listen to it, this next minute or so is going to be me reading it. Tell me why I flip everything I love over, searching for the expiration date, as if it was this finite thing, something I would run after only to run out of. Tell me why love is always in upheaval, something that comes in and turns my whole world upside down, as if I was standing on the tip of my toes, reaching out for something greater than me, only for the world to slip from under my feet, leaving me dangling, grasping for something outside of myself to hold on to tether me back. Tell me why every time I get a taste of it, I can't help but devour until the consumption consumes me, bloated by my hunger for beauty. Tell me why I move from one to the next, scared to miss out on all this world has to offer, sinking my teeth in just enough to get a taste of the figs before I move on to the peaches and the apples and the oranges, only to be left with a basket of half-eaten fruit, rotting, decayed by stories of my inability to commit. Tell me why the pit in my stomach doesn't seem to sprout like the peach pit I buried behind the house, so eager to believe in the potential of something else before I believed in myself. Tell me why I believe love is limited when all it ever does is leave me with emptiness, a space I yearn to fill. Tell me why I ever believed I have been vacant when I have been filled with love all along.